most business owners start their own company because they want freedom.
Absolutely.
And what happens is they get all the financial success, but they never achieve freedom, isn't it? Because if they are not in the business starts to go down because they haven't realized how to delegate and create the right who's in order for them to really enjoy life. Welcome to the Break Free Podcast. I am your host, David Mancilla. Today we have with us somebody remarkable. Bryan, you are making people's life by showing them how to actually enjoy everything that they have been able to accomplish in their whole lifetime, isn't it?
Yes, I focus specifically on their business life to start with, to help them live an amazing life of significance in their personal life.
Beautiful. So, Bryan, to begin, where do you live, and what's specifically your business about?
I live in Overland Park, I live in Leawood, Kansas. I just moved during the pandemic. So I'm in Leawood, Kansas, and my business is focused on business owners who are ready to exit their business, to take some chips off the table, and to put in a full plan. I call it the exit planning red zone, that they want to look at moving towards not working in their business as much as they have been, but working on it and possibly fully exiting the business or a sale or something like that. But we help them navigate all the options and possibilities and all the challenges that go with it.
That's beautiful. Why do you give it that name? Can you explain a little bit more about the name of the strategy?
The strategy, so I'm working on two names of it. I have the exit planning red zone. And so the exit planning red zone is the 5 years prior to exiting and the 5 years after. And what I find a lot of business owners have in their business is they're in a lot of successful chaos, that they have all this success to the outside world, to their friends, to their family, to their customers and those things. But behind the scenes, there's a bit of chaos, that they don't have their legal house in order as much as they should. They're really involved in HR and banking and accounting and bookkeeping. You start a business and you have a love for why you started it. And then as it gets successful, you find yourself working more on these back office activities and not what you love. And so we come in that exit planning red zone and help those founders and those owners outsource many of those responsibilities to, we have a professional network of folks here in Kansas City and around the country that are phenomenal at taking those items off the business owner's plate because it's not what their strong suit is. And then we get everything in order, from HR to employee benefits, to legal, to finance, to accounting, to their wealth management, to insurance. And we tidy that side of the house up for them, and then make a transition plan over 5 years that doesn't require a lot of businesses, and the decisions really go through the business owner, and they're still the center of everything.
Yeah.
And so we try and pull them out of that center so we can put other people in there. And that way their business actually becomes more valuable because it doesn't require them for the business to run, and they'll get a higher multiple for their business, and they'll have more enjoyment because they can work on the parts of the business that they absolutely love and not have to do all the other stuff that takes up their time.
Thank you for that, because I was one of those guys. Basically, most business owners start their own company because they want freedom.
Absolutely.
And what happens is they get all the financial success, but they never achieve freedom, isn't it? Because if they are not in the business starts to go down because they haven't realized how to delegate and create the right who's in order for them to really enjoy life, isn't it?
It's the quest is the self-managed company where you as the business owner can be absent. And if you've never done that before, it can be really scary.
Yeah.
To be away for a week, to be away for a month, to be away for a quarter, for half a year,
Yep.
For a year, and just have a couple of check-ins and let the business run on its own. It requires having a trusted leadership team. It requires processes and procedures. it requires an entire group of professionals that it doesn't happen overnight, and it takes time. And that's why we set our exit planning red zone for those business owners that are in successful chaos, where that's where everything's running through them. And it takes 3 to 5 years to build that.
Mhm.
And then we stick around for 3 to 5 years after to make sure of, the implementation of those things, that we're there and involved as much as possible for that handoff.
Thank you for your job, man. Like this is so needed, because
Well,
you're talking about most business owners, right? Most business owners suffer from that.
Absolutely. Where I got started with this was a few years ago. I had 4 conversations within a month's time with 4 entrepreneurs, and each of these entrepreneurs have a beautiful home, a fantastic car, great kids, great family, all the income they need to do what they want. They travel where they want. They go to the concerts there. They've built the lifestyle that they would like. However, behind the scenes, they are in chaos, and they don't have their legal documents in order. They don't have a lot of non-competes with their employees. They don't have good employee benefits programs. Their bookkeeping is, a little bit haphazard. They're normally filing extensions for their tax returns, and when I got to look personally, and so these 4 allowed me to peel back the onion even further, because a business owner, it's to look at their business finances and everything that's going on is one thing, but then to look further at their personal setup is a complete another one.
Yeah, their family wealth and the family trust and everything else, right?
Well, we looked at it, and what I found with these 4 was they didn't have a lot of personal wealth. Everything was invested in their company. They didn't have a will or a trust. They didn't have life insurance for their family. So if something happens to them, the people they love the most, their family, is left destitute. That there's nothing there for them. They worked all these years to provide this freedom and provide all of this income and all the trimmings of life that are amazing, but they didn't protect them. And they don't have the legal pieces in order to put all that in order. And so, that just really, that set me back, and it really hit me like a ton of bricks that if these 4 are set up that way, and these are really successful business owners and entrepreneurs, then, now 3 or 4 years later, I found an absolute trove of so many business owners that are in the same spot that, I'm going to be busy for a long time going through and fixing this. But it empowers them. It allows them to move towards that amazing life of significance. When you see the stress relief come off their shoulders, because now they know they have a team that they don't have to go spend years and hours trying to find all these professionals. I have them all. I've gathered them together. Everybody plays well together, that we all work towards the same goal for the client. And, it's awesome. And we can plug and play where we need to help those business owners get those results.
It's incredible. I was just having a dinner last night with another business partner of mine, and he was sharing that one of his clients, he's a billionaire, real estate tycoon, billionaire. Mm-hmm. He's still working 16 hours a day, and he's 70 years old. So it doesn't really matter how much money you make.
No.
Because the problem persists, right? So this person still thinks that, or maybe he still are, right? He's still the center of the business. Even with $1 billion net worth, he's still stuck, right? So
yes, it's what you and I learned from Dan Sullivan as strategic coach. It's the ceiling of complexity, and it comes with every evolution of you. That ceiling of complexity kind of goes up in a loop. And you pull back, and then you go through that ceiling of complexity and move to another one and move to another one. And when we hit those ceilings of complexity, the natural human instinct is to work longer and harder and do more. And what we find out, because you're looking at who, not how.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're looking at the how, not the who. And you're trying to get all the work done as yourself as the business owner. And you work longer and longer hours and more days of the week and that. And eventually you burn out because you can only work so many hours a day and so many days a week. And so when you focus on who, not how, who can I delegate this to and who can take it, instead of trying to figure out the how, you break through that level of complexity, you get simpler with your business, and you're able to evolve and move to that next level of creating value in your business.
Yeah. And you also touch a very important point. the average is 3 generations for the wealth to disappear.
Yeah, the
Right?
Midas curse, they call it.
Right? Most people that become successful, if they don't have a good success plan, if they don't teach the next generations how to take care of that wealth, it goes away. And what a shame, because it takes real effort to get where you and I are.
Yeah.
Just to see it gone 3 generations after, even earlier, it's mind blowing, right?
You know what I find, David? This is really interesting, and this is just a personal observation that when I work with family-owned businesses, let's say Grandpa may have started the business making ball bearings back in the 40s, and then it passed on to his son who worked it, and now it's passing to the grandson. Well, when the grandpa started the business years ago, there wasn't renewable energy, there wasn't AI and robotics, there were computers and all these other things. And so sometimes that business that has been passed down may need to be sold because it's not the passion of the next generation to build ball bearings. They want to do something else. They want to take that family wealth and go chase something that really means something to them, given the current opportunities. And so a lot of times, some of these businesses really are getting pushed on because it's what grandpa wanted to do or dad wanted to do, but it's not what that third generation wants to do. And they lose interest, and then the business implodes. It doesn't do as well. The wealth gets deteriorated away because it's all locked up in that business. And so a lot of times it's about, hey, my son wants to be in business, or my daughter, and how do we liquidate this company and gather those assets? And then how do we build a new company, knowing what we know in the last company we built, but it's more along the interests of the next generation. And It's usually in a completely different pivot, because if you don't have that fire and that burning desire for the business, and it's just going to fall down like a house of cards.
And talking about wealth, multi-generational wealth, it doesn't have to be the same business, right? Like,
absolutely,
the idea is, how do you do
a multitude of businesses,
right? And how do you do a successful plan so that your kids and your grandkids get to enjoy whatever they want to do in life while growing the fortune of the family? It doesn't have to be the main business. I was mistaken. Like, I remember 5 years ago, I went to a multi-generational business conference because I was nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year by Ernst & Young. So they flew me to California to the award ceremony, and there was one track during that week about businesses that have lasted for more than 300-400 years. But what I came to realize that I was pushing my own business to my kids, and they didn't necessarily want to have that business. So what I learned there is that that's probably the worst thing that you can do, because if somebody doesn't have the vocation that you have, why would you force them to do something just because of the money?
Yeah.
However, you can put the right structure in place so they can manage the wealth of the family and pass it on to the next generation, doing whatever they like to do.
Once you figure out how to create value in a business and how to build and cultivate great people, how to build a culture, how to attract and retain the right types of clients, how to understand finance and bookkeeping, and empower those metrics for a great banking relationship, and to use the wealth now that the family has to leverage that into another business idea. It doesn't really matter the idea when you have those foundational principles in place. It doesn't really matter the business that you're in, because if you don't have a culture, it'll develop on its own. If you don't put in a plan to attract and retain the clients that you love, or the employees that you love and that you want to work for your business and represent it, then it's just going to happen on its own. And you have to put those pieces in place. And so we look at, when we get out of successful chaos, and I call it the ladder of transformation. So successful chaos is here. And then we have to make sure, do we have organizational fitness, that we're attracting and retaining the right types of employees, and we have the right types of culture and the right benefits. And then the next we look at is value acceleration. Can we train somebody else besides the founder to be the number one salesperson in the company, for somebody to go out and get equal to or better results? And then we know, okay, this is scalable. Yeah. Because I can hire more people and train somebody else, that it doesn't all have to be me selling. And then the next piece is, can we bring in some leverage to really accelerate growth by either selling off part of the company, bringing in some outside money or some partners of those things, and really growing the company, or just growing it over a number of years of hard work. Once you figured out how to do that, it doesn't really matter the business you're in. You can plug and play anything.
Whatever you like. It's beautiful.
It is.
Now, brother, tell me, how did you get into this? Let's go back to high school.
Oh, yeah.
You're in your last year of high school. What was on your mind, and what did you do after that?
So I started down the path of wanting to go to med school. I went.
That's a different path.
Yeah. I always had a side hustle. When I was in middle school and high school, I would buy a ton of candy. I put it in my backpack and I had it in a baggie, and we passed it around the room, and it had the price on the baggie, the quarter for this, $1 for that, 50 cents for that. And I made good money at that. And the school called me in and shut that down. They said it's a distraction to school, but I've always been a hustler, finding ways to make money, from mowing yards, raking leaves, and all that stuff. But in my senior year, I really wanted to do something in medicine. And so my family couldn't pay 100% of school. So I joined the Army Reserves. I went in as a field medic and just loved the medical field in that. And so I went to Mizzou to study biology and chemistry and physics and those things. And I was really enjoying it. And one of the summers I was doing a research project on infanticide amongst mice. And I happened to spend some time with my professor, Dr. Glenn Perigo. He's at Texas Tech now. And I call him every few years to check in on him, because he gave me the greatest advice in the world. He said, most doctors in the future are going to end up working for big corporations. The successful ones will own their own business, but most doctors don't know how to run their own business. So get a minor in biology and chemistry and major in business and marketing and human resources and accounting and finance, and know that well, so you'll do better as a business owner. Well, I got to the business school at Mizzou and I loved it, and I never looked back to the medical field.
That is incredible. By the way, your mentor is so right. Most doctors have no idea how to invest their money, and they end up in a tough situation because they make these huge salaries and they tend to overspend what they have. And then when there's time for retirement, it's very hard for them, right?
There's two different skills in life. And there's the skill of how to make money, and there's the skill of how to keep money.
And it's different.
And my expertise is how to keep money.
Yes.
For my clients.
Beautiful.
How do we build a wealth preservation plan? How do we pay less in taxes? How do we protect it from, litigation, frivolous litigation, or divorce of a child that money doesn't go to an ex-spouse of theirs that you hate? How do you transfer it to the next generation as efficiently as possible and not leave a ton of money to Uncle Sam? And then how do you really make impactful charitable gifts if that's something that's important to you? And that's what we've built in with our plan and our strategy. We found those are for the high net worth clients that we work with. That's what's really, really most important for them, is that keeping the money.
Amazing. Incredible, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. Now, so you turned into business school, you graduated.
Yes.
What did you do after graduation?
I went to work for Lear Corporation, and I've always been a guy I love statistics and numbers ever since I've been a little kid. My dad taught me investing he would pay me in Procter & Gamble stock in the summers for work around the house. And I would sell the stock back to him when the price was high, and then I'd buy more from him when it was low. And he found out that I was making more money trading stocks with him than I was working around the house. So he shut down the arbitrage.
He should have encouraged it,
Yeah, I know. But he's like, hey, he wanted work done around the house, not me sitting there making money off of him. And so I went to work for Lear Corporation, and I worked in their materials handling department, and I got promoted through there to director of materials. And we built automotive seats for a lot of cars in the automotive industry, worked on the F-150, the Dodge Ram, just a multitude of cars. And Lear found that I had a special talent for the materials side of business, how to source all the materials just in time. Right now the supply chain's blown up around the world. And I was one of the ones that helped build a really efficient system within Lear that we have very little inventory on hand, because we want high turns and you make more money that way at a narrow margin business.
Right.
But I went around to multiple plants around the country, and I fixed their material handling problems, some of their production problems that they had in their business, so they would be able to get higher turns, have less inventory they have to throw out,
Right.
and it would help drive profitability, organization, and having less materials on hand because you knew you had the right stuff coming in the door. And so I worked on that for a number of years with them, and then I went to General Electric, and they had 4 plants here in town in the transportation signaling division. So we worked on all the train crossings for Union Pacific and a number of other railroads, BNSF and that. And we also worked on all of the train controls for like Manta in Atlanta. We worked on the Metro. We worked on just a multitude of big subway and train station controls, and I did the material side of that. And then from there, we were having our first child, and I knew I was kind of at the upper end of promotion in Kansas City. And my wife said, "I'm not leaving Kansas City. She was born and raised here. We're going to have kids here. Her parents were here." And so I started looking for something else. And that's when I found wealth management and financial advising.
So basically, your wife was your breakthrough. By her wanting to stay in Kansas, you thought, okay, what do I do now? Right?
She's been my breakthrough my entire life. Without her, supporting me all these years, because for when I started in this business, she's the one that made the money for years, and she helped support me and support our family and those things as we started from nothing. When I started this business, I had no income, no clients, no nothing. I had a 12 by 12 little office with a conference room, no window, and a telephone and a computer, and just started
by yourself.
Yeah,
by yourself. Okay, so that's scary. And that's why most people don't actually break free into their own business, right? That's why this is called the Break Free Podcast.
Yes.
What was in your mind? So you were having this beautiful, high-end paying job.
Mm-hmm.
You were respected. You were successful.
Yeah.
What was really what did it take for you to take the leap of faith into your own business? And why did you choose wealth management?
Well, number one, I was having phenomenal results for these big companies, saving them millions of dollars. And, I would go in and get a 4% raise, and I, would save $12 million.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just looking at it going, man, if I can save that kind of money for a company that big, that's run that inefficiently, why can't I do something for myself and generate profit? I learned from the great Jim Rohn that profits are better than wages.
Yep.
And so I wanted to go after that. And I've had an entrepreneurial bug ever since I was a kid. I've always had my own side hustle and that, but I never really I had my own business. And so I had a few businesses that failed. But as I started looking at the financial advisory world, what I found out was I actually went through a company here in town called Wright and Associates, and they help you figure out your career path and really what career paths you should consider. Up until that time, I didn't know that this financial advisory world existed.
Wow.
I just thought it was something you had to do on your own because that's what my dad and mom taught me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't learn about this career path in college. They didn't talk about it then. They do now. Mm-hmm. It's a big piece of curriculum at Mizzou now. But back when I was in school, it just wasn't there. It wasn't taught, and it wasn't exposed the way it is. And so I was working with Wright Career Associates, and they said, you really ought to look at intangible sales, and you should consider financial services. And so I interviewed about 25 firms in town. I found an independent advisor that I love, that I thought I could make an impact. Wow. And we went in and he had 80 million in assets under management. And in about 6 years, we grew that to 350 million. And then we merged with another $350 million practice to get to 700 million.
Wow.
And we were doing a 2-hour radio show every week. We were doing, 2 to 4 seminars a week. And we were just working our tails off building this business, but I was building it for somebody else. And so I got to the point in 2008, I said, I do not want to get to age 70. And this was my breakthrough. I do not want to get to age 70 and regret that I didn't take the leap of faith to do it on my own.
Yeah.
I didn't want to look back and say, man, why did I never have the gumption to build it on my own and do it for myself that I always had to do it for somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I made that leap of faith, and that's when I started over with no clients, no income, no assets, nothing. I ran up $165,000 in credit card debt. I refused to mortgage our home or touch our retirement assets because if it failed, I didn't want to mess up what we'd already built. And so I built it that way, and off I went.
So basically, you were from working in a 12 by 12 office, living off your wife's income and debt, credit card debt,
Yes.
completely cut off from any revenue stream.
Yes.
Until you build your empire. This is so inspiring. And this is what it takes, isn't it?
Yes,
right?
It does.
This is what it takes. People think, oh, I'm going to become a business owner, I'm going to be a multimillionaire, but they don't really know that you have to cross the desert with very little water. And a lot of people, they die through the desert. But if you have it in your heart, you will actually make it through. And you're a clear example of that. Congratulations.
I've always been, an optimistic realist. I love people. I trust people. I'm curious. I ask a lot of questions. I really care and I want to know what's going on. I want to find out how I can help, or who do I know that can help? To shorten that learning curve for a client or help connect them with a professional where they can get to where they want to go faster with less involvement and giving them some of that time back, because time is the precious resource that no matter what we do, I mean, unless we can clone ourselves as an avatar, right? In the metaverse, which would be absolutely possible someday, I believe. But until that day, you only have so much time to do what you do, and you have to be as impactful and as intentional as possible, because if you don't have a plan for your day, somebody else will. And I just wanted to be in control. I wanted that freedom. I wanted to build it, and it was not smooth sailing. Wealth is messy. Wealth does not come in a straight line.
Nope.
Very few people make their money overnight. Very few people find a get-rich-quick scheme. Very few people inherit significant wealth. Most of it's earned. It's built. It's blood, sweat, and tears. It's long nights and weekends, time away from your family, and those items in there. And I was really grateful to find Dan Sullivan to help me break through so much of everything that went through me as an entrepreneur. And now I can take everything I've learned, and I can now take all those lessons and apply those to so many other business owners to help them, realize the amazing life that I've built for my family. Now,
do you see the pattern, brother? Your entire life, you had beautiful mentors out of love telling you what to do next, or at least advising you. And this is so important for the audience. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the people that reached out, or I reached out to people that were willing to help. Right. Absolutely. So in this case, Jim Rohn, Dan Sullivan, right?
Yes.
Your professor, right? And really paying attention. So I tell people, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. What you have to do is find people that have what you want and follow the success track. And even like that is complicated, but it's a lot easier than being blinded and with your ego so high that you cannot be taught anything because you think you know everything, right?
So true. And then the other part is that my family support has been amazing. My in-laws, my parents, my sister, my wife, my children, fully supportive along the way, through the ups, through the downs, when I've been fired and failed, and all that they've been there every time. And then today, the employees and my business partner that I have today they're the amazing core of our business. Without them, it fails.
Of course.
They're fantastic and phenomenal. And we work at how do we attract, how do we retain, how do we build a culture on purpose, all the things that we talk about. We practice here in the office, and we're constantly trying to get better and build it better. And I got a phenomenal team here that could never do a fraction of what I do today without them.
It's all about people, right? It's
all day long, yes.
I run a very high-end software consulting firm. We build applications to grow our clients' profits and make this world a better place. And people think I just work with a computer. Not true. It's a people business still. I have 65 employees that they require leadership and building culture and their values. And I have a ton of clients that is my obligation and my privilege to grow their net profits.
Yes.
So it's still people. We just happen to use technology to grow them, right?
It's so true. And that is what you just illustrated is behind every successful business.
Exactly. So now,
Those
tell
elements
me,
have to be in place. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
how long did it take you for you to go from getting close to being broke until finally breaking even, start paying the bills and showing your wife that this is working? Because ladies have a limit. My wife, by the way, very similar to you. She told me,
Yeah.
you got 5 years. And she worked really hard for 5 years until I finally made money in my business. Right.
I opened the doors of this business July 11th, 2013. And I was, 165,000 in debt. I had the debt paid off within a year and a half. And
Right on.
and then I started taking a salary, and then I realized that I needed to hire somebody, and the job description was to help me go faster.
Mhm.
And so then I stopped taking a salary for a year and a half to give him my salary. So I could
Again.
hire him. And then, and then we caught that up down the road. But the real, income from the business, started really producing for us around 2017, 2018. And then, we've grown, 25 to 35% a year since we started in 2013.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we 10x'd in about 7 years, and I'm working on my next 10x right now, and I'm trying to do it in half the time. Last time I did it by accident. This time I'm trying to do it on purpose.
On purpose. So,
but I'm also trying to do it without me having to be involved in everything.
Exactly. Yeah, with the right who's. With the right who's. Now, for the audience, can you explain what 10x means?
Yeah, 10x is, it's easier to 10x your business and grow your business by 10 times than it is to double. And to focus on the 10x, it requires you to really stretch your thinking. I call it a BHAG, a big hairy ass goal from Jim Collins's book. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's having that big goal that really says, okay, this isn't me working more hours and more days of the week and taking on more responsibility. This is about me saying, who do I know that can help me get to where I want to be at to tackle the problem, and just to say, here's what we want to do. And how do we get a who to do that? And you'll find that you can 10x your business faster than you can 2x your business, because it's not based on how much extra work you can do or how many more clients you can bring on. As a business owner, it's about your business growing and empowering other people to make that growth for you.
It's beautiful. And then you start blessing the world, because now you have more people involved.
Absolutely.
More people are getting wealthy, right? Because I believe, like, for every millionaire that is out there, they create other millionaires around them, right? It's just giving and receiving, and it's just a beautiful self-fulfilling prophecy. But when people get stuck in themselves, they might reach some kind of wealth, but then, like the example of this billionaire, they get trapped. And then instead of being in freedom, they are in a big ass jail. And that happened to me. Yeah. I started my own business because I wanted to break out of corporate jail. I wrote a book about that became very popular. But then I realized that I created a bigger jail for myself in my own business.
Happens so often.
A bigger jail, stronger, harder to break free from. And it took almost my life. I had a heart attack until I realized what I was doing to myself and my family.
The first thing you realize when you build your own business is that, when you work for another company, somebody can walk in on Monday and say you're fired.
Mm-hmm.
When you work for yourself and what you built, not all your clients are not going to walk in on Monday and say you're fired.
Yep.
And so you have job security, and that stress goes away. But I describe it as a dining room table, that as your business grows, your dining room table gets larger, and the people sitting around the dining room table are your vendors, your employees, the IRS, the governments, the different agencies, everybody you have to pay at the table. And the more successful you are, the larger that table gets. And you support all those individuals and all those families, and they rely on you, and they expect that the growth that you have grows their business. And that's a big job to take on by yourself. And it can really create that jail that you described.
Yeah.
That will keep you locked up in there going, man, I can never take a day off, because look at all these people that rely on me, and look at all this money, and look at all this revenue and all these people. And it can really be, that's one of the items that drives you to a ceiling of complexity.
Yeah.
And to get through that is always the who's, finding the right who's that you can outsource and delegate many of the activities that give you the most stress.
Yeah. And look at you, a clear example. You were willing to go without a salary for a year and a half and get the right who, and look how it worked out for you. And this is the strength that
Yeah.
an entrepreneur needs. And by the way, it's okay to have a job. It's not for everybody, right? Entrepreneurs need people that play the game with us so we can all make a better world. But if you have this in your heart that you want to be an entrepreneur, all it takes is wisdom and humility and the strength to go through the desert until you make it, until you make it to the river. And once you're in the river, you have all the water you can drink.
At the end of the day, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Exactly.
You fail. You wind up shop, and you move on and you start another business.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing that can happen. Nobody's going to take a leg. You're not going to be thrown in jail. You're not going to have the terrible things in life happen to you. Yes, you failed, but you learn from the failure, and then you find a new pivot and a new way to go and a new opportunity. And you'll find your way through it. I have had plenty of failures to get there, but I just never stopped trying to find the right path where I could be in a business where I could do well for myself by doing well for others.
That's the secret. You have to have in mind that you want to do well for others, and then you're going to do well for yourself. And that's what I was mistaken, right? The first 10 years of my business was, how can I do well for me and I don't care about anybody else?
Yeah.
I was in my ego self so much that my greed got me a heart attack. Honestly, it did, because my body didn't agree with my mind, and because my mind was in the wrong place. Once I realized it's about everybody else, not just about me, once I realized that I am supposed to add massive value to my clients and my employees, then that value will come back to me. Then I broke free, finally, right?
That's a ceiling of complexity, right? Greed is one of the ceilings of complexity.
Yep.
That it's all you, it's all your money, it's all relying on you, and that because it's all yours, that you should take all the money home and pay nothing else to anybody else, and you don't care what you do. And then that's a limit on your business. And once you figure out what you said, that it's the value you help create for others is the only reason you get paid, and you realize those relationships and that value you can continue to create, that breaks you through that ceiling, and boy, then you get rocking and rolling to the next one.
And it's beautiful. And it's beautiful because it also creates fulfillment, right? So I'm about to open this new group called Owners in Flow. So my job is to teach people, very successful people, how to reach fulfillment. Mm-hmm. Because the problem is that it doesn't matter how much money you accumulate in life. If you're not fulfilled inside, that's the biggest failure. So the biggest failure is being successful and being empty inside. And a lot of people suffer from that, because that was me, right? So I'm just coming out of this horrible situation to realize that I can have a beautiful life of fulfillment. And what it takes is gratitude and focusing on making this world a better place by helping people get what they want and need.
Amen.
It's not hard, but it's you get blinded by success, and you get blinded by money, isn't it?
You get blinded by money, and also you get you can get pushed off track from everybody that wants to help you and advise you and tell you what you should or shouldn't do. And so you have this pathless travel that you want to take. And if you have the wrong people around you, it could be old friends, right? It could be family, it could be business partners, it could be clients, it could be well-meaning people, but they nudge you off of the path you're on, and you finally look over and you realize you're in the ditch looking up at the path you wanted to be on, and you go, what in the world happened?
Yeah.
And it requires, I did this years ago, and I've done it a few times, where I'll take a whiteboard and I'll draw it into 3 sections. And in section 1 is, who are the people around me that I just absolutely love being around, that I want to be more like and I want to spend more time with. Mm-hmm. The middle column B is, who are the people that I don't like being around, that don't empower me, that bring me down, that bring negative energy, that I just don't enjoy being with. Mm-hmm. And they make stress in my life. And then column C are, who are people that I'd like to spend more time with, that I don't know if they're a group A or a group B, but I'd like to intentionally spend more time with them to see what group they follow in. And so then I would associate more with the A's, disassociate with the B's, and then specifically schedule time to spend more time with people in the C's. And some of that may just be on a podcast, because you can't afford to join their coaching group or can't afford to go see them, but you can at least spend time in their podcast to get to know them until you get your business to a level where you can. But those A's and B's, that's personal and professional. That has served me well multiple times in my life when you just hit those stressful times and go, hold on, we got to divvy this out because something is not right.
Beautiful. That alone, what you just shared, brother, made this podcast super valuable. Thank you. Thank you so much. Because it's true. Like it's didn't Jim Rohn said that you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most?
Yes. It's knowing that you have the permission to choose who you spend time with.
Yes.
You don't have to spend time with somebody just because they're around you. Like, you have permission to change and pivot.
It's true.
You know? That any life, as far off the rails as it can get, it can get so low that you look up to the gutter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's human life that your value is. I saw a TikTok yesterday. The professor stood in front of the class and had a $20 bill, and he asked the people in the class, who wants the $20 bill? Everybody raised their hand. Well, then he crumpled it up and he said, now who wants the $20 bill? And everybody raised their hand. Then he threw it on the ground and he stepped on it with his shoes and got it dirty. And he picked it up. Who wants it? Everybody in the class, I want the $20 bill. And he said, you just learned an important lesson of life, that your worth as an individual, no matter how crumpled you get, how dirty you are, how stomped on you are by the world, how low in the gutter you get, your worth is still 100% there. And at any point you can choose to turn it around and change it and head in a different direction, that your value doesn't change because you're crumpled and dirty or beat up or in the gutter. You can still pull it out and go. And that's the beauty of living in America and the world that we're in, that the possibilities are endless. And it all begins inside of you, not anybody else.
Oh my God, and it's so true, right? All your potential is already inside of you, regardless of how bad you are. And that's right. And you can choose, like you said, you can choose to change.
Yeah. It's if you imagine 2 circles on a page. So you draw a circle, one here, and the other one just somewhat intersects it, right? And these are matters of the world that can consume your time. Who's Jay-Z married to? What's President Biden doing? What's Russia doing in the Ukraine? Your family, your clients, your church, your faith, right? All those are matters of things you can worry about. And control is the other piece of it. And you have to find out of what are the things that I have control of that also are matters I care about, and focus there. Because I don't care how long I talk about it, I'm not going to affect Jerome Powell and what he decides to do with interest rates tomorrow. Exactly. I'm not going to affect Biden's foreign policy. I'm not going to change the war in the Ukraine, right? I can realize it's sad. I support him. I could give money all day long, but you just have to look at those matters. And so many times we get off on these sidetracks with these matters that we have no control over. What the weather's going to do and those things, like, it doesn't matter. Focus on the matters that you have the most control and influence over. Spend your life there, adding value to the world, being humble, being grateful, and surrounding yourself with people that empower and inspire and encourage you to a path of an amazing life of significance.
That's beautiful. Oh my God, this is being amazing, brother. Thank you so much for your wisdom. I really respect your time. So I'm going to ask you one last question before we end this. If you had access to a billboard in the busiest highway on earth, what would you write in it?
Wow, I've never thought of that. Trust yourself.
There you go. We'll go back to the $20 bill, right? Trust yourself.
Trust yourself.
There is greatness in you. There is greatness in everybody.
It starts with you.
Yeah.
It doesn't start with anybody else. It starts with you. Always does.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for your life. Thank you for your work. Thank you for inspiring. I know a lot of people are going to enjoy this podcast. You're always welcome to come back, brother. Now you're part of my inner circle. And let me know if I can do anything to support your cause. And if people want to find out more about you and how you can actually automate their business, where they can find you.
The easiest is our website, retirewithtrue.com. Retire with and then true, TRUE.com. and you can find me there, and you can get in touch with me and get a hold of me, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Bryan Sarff, BryanSarff. One of the few Sarffs in the world out there, so easy to find me, But
Beautiful.
David, I appreciate being on your podcast today. Thank you so much for hosting me. You're a brilliant man. You're amazing impact on the world, and I love having you as a friend and being here on your podcast to share with you today.
Bryan, blessings. Thank you so much, and have an awesome rest of the week. Cheers.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free Podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.